Golf's no different from hockey. Requires talent, self-discipline.
Golf requires goofy pants and a fat ass. You should talk to my neighbor, the accountant, probably a great golfer, huge ass.
How do you measure yourself with other golfers? By height.
It's a very, very special honor.
I'm Paula Creamer, and you're listening.
Well, we're waiting.
Hi, this is Martin Cove, a.k.a. John Kreese from Cobra Kai, and you're listening to
Quiet, Please.
Let the word go out from here across the land. Let Daddy Noonan approve.
Hi, boys. Nice day for golf, eh? Quiet, please. Oh, you got secrets, eh?
Hey, this is Shooter McGavin. You're listening to the...
Hey, you guys. Hey, we're trying to have a podcast over here.
Indeed we are, and welcome once again to Quiet Please, the golf podcast. I am Alan Depew, and we try to bring you weekly the men and women that are shaping the game, latest golfing destinations, and we'll throw in there a little technology because we're all a little seeking to find the latest way to improve our putting strokes, shoulder turn, all of the above. And joining me on that quest, as always, my illustrious panel of golf industry experts. To my immediate right, hailing from the bourbon country, but we call him Boston Bobby, Bob Baldessari.
Dear spring has sprung in Kentucky. We are golfing.
Yes, we are, and we are nearing the date for some mint juleps and the Run for the Roses are coming up soon, if I recall, right?
Don't forget your Q mixer.
On my set. Yes, and Q mixers will be present, I'm sure. Speaking of Q mixers, Mr. Andy Hydorn, the ever-present one.
Hello.
Sporting the Patriots hat today.
Yes.
And you know what? When you're a pretty boy, you go to a pretty location. Hailing out of San Diego today, checking in from the West Coast. Hello, Christian.
Good to be back, fellas.
Good to be seen, indeed. I got to see Christian, in fact, this past weekend in South Carolina, down the Palmetto State.
Nice.
No, I know it was Gray's party, but always great to see you, Papa Dupes.
Always a pleasure to be seen by you, son. Hey, so guys, I'm going to actually start our show tonight with a little bit of somber news. Dave Pelz. Dave Pelz passing. I think we need to touch on that because we talk all the time about the people that are shaping the game or have shaped the game. And, we talked about Callaway. We talk about, even our friend Bill Pressey. I mean, shaping how putting technology. Dave Pelz was short game. He was Mr. Short Game, Phil Mickelson. You go back to the days when, and I found this interesting as I was looking at some of the notes about Dave, looking back, here's another example of somebody that was from a completely separate industry. And he just had a fascination with some component of golf and started applying technical aspects to the golf game. Bobby, let me ask you, and we're hang on. I gotta get your background up there from a historical perspective. I mean, give us a little rundown. I mean, Dave Pelz.
Yeah, I don't know if Christian can appreciate this, or the younger crowd. You, Andy, myself, Brendan. I distinctly remember a conversation at my dad's golf course at his shop when this guy, Dave Pelz, came up. And who was he? Some scientist, not a PGA pro, didn't play the tour. What's he talking about? Technology or data science. 4 wedges in a bag is better than a 14 regular set. The Dave Pelz lightweight clubs. I mean, the guy was such a forerunner, innovator, talking about things that nobody talked about. I should have run in to get my R90 Wilson wedge. Remember that, Andy?
Oh, yeah.
We grew up in a generation, Christian, where one sand wedge, you had to figure out how to open it, close it, lay it open, this, that, the other. And then Dave Pelz comes along and goes, you might need 4 wedges, all kinds of degrees of sand wedge. Tom Kite really started to adopt that. Yeah, I mean, it's when this guy came out, he was not embraced at all from a lot of the golf establishment. I think, Mickelson was one of the early adopters, but yeah, I mean, he finally, I think, was embraced. He, as you said, short game guru type of thing, putting, chipping, short game. Really, yeah. I mean, hadn't heard much about him for a while, but he really broke through. He's one of those guys that did break some new ground for the game of golf on the instruction side.
Andy, I mean, you clearly the guy, he transformed professional golf with his work with tour players. Bobby mentioned Mickelson, but his legacy extends far past that. I mean, as mentioned, wedges, putting, multiple books on the short game. I mean, he was almost like he was like the pre-Bryson for how to dissect things from numerically.
Yeah, you know, for me, the thing that stands out with Dave Pelz is there's a lot of people that are into technology. He was the data guy. Like, he did everything based on scientific collection of data and what works, what doesn't work. And it was fascinating that he applied those principles to how to approach the short game. Bob touched on it, but a lot of people don't realize that the 60-degree wedge was a Dave Pelz thing. I mean, that literally came from Dave Pelz through Tom Kite, like Bob said. And the four wedge thing really played itself out as now you have a 56, you have a 60, you have a 52, and then, you know, a pitching wedge. So it really revolutionized not just professional golf, but it revolutionized golf, you know, for everybody. As I mean, I would bet the number of people who play golf with a 60-degree wedge in their bag, me not being one of them, I'm not allowed to, but there's a lot of people that use a 60-degree wedge. You know, one other quick note, last summer, we go play in this tournament at Horseshoe Bay, which is out just north of San Antonio. And driving out there, we always drove past this Dave Pelz kind of short game facility. And last year we actually stopped. My buddy Ryan and I stopped, and it was all kind of grown over and abandoned. I didn't realize that, you know, he had what was once his headquarters was now kind of abandoned and gone. But the last thing I'll say, and I didn't realize this, I didn't realize he was 85 years old. It just seems like that's a little bit of a stretch to think about. So, yeah, he was definitely an icon.
Christian, we're going to try to bring you in on this because it. Here, I even threw up a little West Coast for you. I mean, you obviously know who Dave Pelz is, even though you're on the younger side of our panel. But he was famous. Pelz putting tutor, detailed work on wedge play, as both the other guys mentioned. Did you have any impact? What impact, I guess, would you have coming up through the juniors and collegiate ranks and what have you? Did you ever do any kind of studies at all whatsoever with Dave, or books?
Me specifically, no, but I'm always that historian that likes to look at old, like, I find golf back, obviously, in the day very fascinating. It's a completely different game than what it was today, right? I grew up playing a 60-degree wedge. I still have a 60-degree in my bag. That was just what I got accustomed to going out in my backyard when I was a kid growing up, hitting shots. So that was what I got introduced when I was just starting out to play. Not many people, actually, I didn't even know that he was the one that invented that to begin with, like Andy just mentioned. So that was news to me. But I think, you know, many more people that I know, I always try to tell them, like, go back in the day and like watch or like videos or read articles and that kind of stuff. With all my traveling that I'm doing for my job right now, is like I have a lot of free time to go back and actually read a lot of this stuff because I just find it very fascinating. You know, I have some of like the old timers clubs at my house in Charlotte, so it's always nice to kind of go back and look at those and everything. So it's truly remarkable what some of the scores that they would put up, these players back in the day, with what they were given.
So I'd love to add a new feature to the Quiet Please podcast, the trivia question of the week. And I think we throw it out there. We'll wait a while to answer it. See if any of our listeners want to chime in with an answer. But what was it?
Hold your thought for a second. I was just about to say, for those that are watching us right now, we love little give and take. You have questions, please chime in. We'd love to respond on air.
So here's the Quiet Please trivia question of the week. It's probably mostly for the old people, but what was the name of Dave Pelz's putting model that he used? Dave Pelz's putting model.
Oh, yeah.
We're not answering this. We're going to come back later, but we'll give our listeners a chance to Google the answer.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, sorry, Alan. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I didn't have anything. I'm literally scratching my head. I thought it was the Pelz putting tutor.
And it's not called Alan Depew. That's not what it is.
Well, and I will admit I did not take any lessons from Dave Pelz personally, but I may have read some of his stuff, and it may have paid off once or twice on a putting green. Just saying, just throwing it out there. Anyway, a legend, a legacy. You know, Bobby. One last thing. Legend in the game. I mean, again, Karsten, Callaway, Pelz, Penick. You can lump some of these people together. That their impact and their views and teachings in the game of golf. I mean, they transcend generations. They're principles that you follow upon.
Yeah, you could. Well, he's still around, but you could throw in Barney Adams. There's a lot of, this is the part where I have this sense or feeling or point of view that was back in the day when golf was the game and it was entrepreneurial and it was just different from the business sense. And now it's very corporate. And I bring this analogy, I suppose, if this makes sense, but I would grow up green grass, and I think you think of the game, you think of the business different, entrepreneurial, you're out there. And then I spent some time, at PGA headquarters, and it's very corporate. And I can see where I've Andy worked at Callaway. If you're with a big company, it's just, I think, a different environment versus Karsten in his garage, Dave Pelz on his own, everybody just doing their thing, Barney in his garage, Bill Pressey in his garage, that whole type of entrepreneurial spirit type of thing. I think it's different than if you go into, like, quick story, when the TaylorMade, blanking on it now, it looked like a ping pong paddle, the face. Do you remember that?
The putter?
Yeah, remember the putter that it looked like the face was a ping pong paddle. I still have mine.
Nope.
Shoot.
No,
well,
remember that.
So there was a guy at USGA, Dick Ruggles, that was the technical expert. He ended up going to TaylorMade. He told me the story that, again, another little thing where TaylorMade did not invent this thing, but he was brought to attention. Some guy in New Jersey had created this putter, and it was getting good results, and it basically looked like a ping pong paddle face on the putter. And TaylorMade brought it in, and then they started selling it. And everybody thought, oh, TaylorMade's so impressive. They had nothing to do with it. It wasn't a corporate thing. It's just something that might stifle you in a corporate setting that you get when you're just out on your own.
Well, for telling stories, I got to tell one I'm probably closest to is in the storyline is SST Pure, and the pure and shaft puring was a very similar story. Dick Weiss down in South Florida, engineering background, owned two low handicapper, owns two drivers, very similar, and he couldn't figure out why he hit one this way and hit another one another way. So he literally broke it down. The club's head's the same, shafts are the same, everything. It's ultimately, to abbreviate the story, is how the shaft is placed into the driver head. Yeah, it's that type of innovation, I think, it is fueled the growth of the game and the technology of it. And who ultimately benefited is guys like Viktor Hovland. Let's just talk about corporations. goes over at a little resurgence out of nowhere at the Valspar from Viktor. I'm watching Thursday's telecast, Christian. Okay, we're going to go to you first. I'm watching, and they literally are flashing up about how Viktor's driving distance in particular, and this goes to Andy Heidorn's, the impact of driving the ball well, shots gained that way. And Viktor's driving distance had dropped over the last 4 years. I think he's off like 10 or 15 yards. Don't quote me on the exact number. And they're like, boy, we'd really like to see him get back on his game. He had dropped down to, I think, certainly out of the top 10. I don't have the exact number. And then out of nowhere. Christian?
Yeah, well, I think he missed like what? I think it was 3 or 4 missed cuts in a row.
Right.
I think it was leading up to the Valspar, and automatically it won. But it just goes to show you that golf's a crazy game, right? You could have a terrible season, have 5, 6, 7, 8 missed cuts, but win once. It just takes 1 week to build your confidence back. So I hope that it built his confidence back, because I'm a big Viktor Hovland guy personally. And I really think that he is going to hopefully do well the rest of the season moving forward. But it doesn't matter what you could do as far as driving distance goes. It just matter how you get the ball in the hole.
Bobby, actually, no. Andy, I mean, Christian's got a point there. You've said it often. You're one swing away from excellence and you're one swing away from disaster. I mean, did he just find something and it just started rolling?
No, I think it's bizarre, actually. If you listen to the stuff he says in front of a microphone right now, you're not putting any money on him this week or next week or the week after, because he just basically said my swing feels the same as it did before. He goes, it doesn't feel good. This week I saved a lot of shots with my hands and my timing. He said, but it doesn't feel good and it's not where it's supposed to be. So that's pretty telling.
I'll tell you what, that was a big boy shot he hit on 17 to make birdie.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the same thing. I guess the Christian, it came crossed my mind. The guy's missed 3 or 4 cuts in a row, and he's at least scoring, and he's playing on this tough course. Sometimes the tougher the course sometimes can help. But I guess, Andy, he might have been just playing golf instead of thinking swing. Just you can't think too technical the back nine of a tour event, and just probably had some sort of timing going. But then it's interesting on 18. He probably looked at the leaderboard and thought, I can play for bogey, because he played it safe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, 17 is mindset on that tee versus the 18th tee mindset.
I mean, the honesty, I think, is super interesting and commendable, that he really feels like he hasn't made the progress that his results are showing, right? So generally speaking, if you talk to the Bob Rotellas of the world and the other positive thinking, coaches out there, they'll tell you that he's doing himself no favors right now.
I was going to say, that's not the positive self-talk that.
Yeah. But maybe honesty is what makes him tick, right? Maybe being honest with himself and just going about his progress the way he's talking about it. Maybe that's what makes him go.
I mean, his putting was phenomenal. I mean, this week, as you said, I mean, maybe that alone was what saved him. I believe it was the first time his finish was some silly number. First time since 2004 to finish with birdies down the stretch like that to win that thing or close it out. Where does he go from here, Christian? Because I know you and I, Viktor Hovland's always been our boy. I mean, we're big Viktor fans.
Well, where he goes from here is Augusta. No, I'm kidding. After that, though, I do hope that he finds his game. Personally, it seems like every younger player will always go through a little, drought in their career, and I don't know if this is going to be his drought now, but I do think that he can get back to where he once was, competing, finishing top 10 regularly on tour. I hope that he would, win another one. I will always root for Viktor. I think he's a class act on and off the golf course. So I think I'm rooting for him and hopefully another major this year. But I guess we'll see.
Andy, where does that self-talk take him?
I don't know. I think everybody responds differently, right? But I feel like from our friend Steven Yellen's point of view, that if he would do an analysis on what Viktor is saying right now and what watching Jordan Spieth, for example, I mean, Steven would not be bullish on those two guys having a good stretch, because he feels like if you're thinking about mechanics to that level, then you're not going to be able to really reproduce what you're trying to do consistently. And I believe him when it comes to that stuff.
That same Thursday walk through the golf shop, I'm sitting there watching Jordan, and he's got a wedge in his hand. I can't recall what hole it is. He just blows this thing over the green and into the back at the base of the grandstands. And just his body language. I mean, he's always theatrical when he mishits a shot, but his body language is just like, you're just sitting there going, dude, just stop.
But again, it's credit to Steven Yellen. They're trying to recreate a swing every time they play a shot. And if your prefrontal cortex is trying to recreate a swing, then you're going to go through stretches because they're so good where you're going to be able to do it for a while. But long term, that is not the recipe for playing a sustained amount of good golf.
Bobby, you know we are in deep into conversation about playing the game at a high level. We're talking prefrontal cortex.
That's where Andy thrives, like that.
No, it's called use the prefrontal cortex. Use your cerebellum. Come on, it's Steven Yellen. You gotta believe that Steven's talking the truth.
Oh yeah, this is good stuff right here. No, I'm. When I first met Steven in 2013, I remember he gave me his info, and I was sitting in my office at PGA headquarters. I said, "This is really, really good stuff. You are way out ahead, different than Rattel and all the other guys." So I've been a big fan of his for years.
Yes, when you're in the car making a left-hand turn, are you talking about externally rotating your hands as you're moving the steering wheel?
Right.
No, you're not. And that's his oversimplified analogy of what these guys are doing on the golf course.
All right. So watch how I do this one, Andy. So what you're saying is if you're here, you don't want to be that guy. And if you're going to be, don't be that guy. This week, Bobby's got a don't be that guy.
Well, yeah. Actually, I have a funny don't be a PS to this, but for a different sport. But anyways, yeah, I guess my don't be that guy would be Friday at the Valspar. Adam Hadwin did not like his shot, and he took it out the sprinkler. So if don't hit the sprinkler head and before you put your rain gear on. I mean, come on, don't be that guy that is going to get drenched. You know, think ahead here. Plan your shot. Don't just smash it. You know, doesn't he know? Maybe he hasn't been around course agronomy much, so he doesn't know you're going to hit that sprinkler head. That very, very, very well is going to shoot right out. 550,000 gallons of water coming at you. So
honestly, did he face any repercussion? I mean, other than he got roasted all over social media, has anyone heard? Did he suffer anything from the tour itself?
I think his wife made him cook his own dinner that night.
Oh.
So, you know, my tongue-in-cheek other don't be that guy is, hey, don't be that guy and don't realize that the Red Sox are going to win the AL East. Don't be that guy.
Right? Right? Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
But be that guy that says the Patriots are going to make the playoffs.
We know that guy.
Be that guy.
All right, enough of that. Christian, your Eagles are still the Super Bowl champions, right?
Yeah, well, we lost a lot of guys, unfortunately, this year, so which is not surprising. Seems like every team that wins the Super Bowl, everybody goes after their guys and pays them the money. So
hey, without, I mean, obviously, that then begs the question: is can other perennial champions like juggernauts like Atlanta of the TGL can they repeat?
Well played, Alan. Well played.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll start this one off.
Please do. You're the youngest one. You're the youngest one in the group. You're probably the only one that watched the damn thing.
Hey, I watched it. Actually, I watched it the most last night, sitting in my hotel room, than I did for the entire season. However, I will say, I think this is turning into something really, really cool. I'm a big TGL fan. I think it's an awesome concept. And to top it all off, they have probably twice as many more views as LIV Golf does for the entire season.
True. I got to throw this part to Andy, though. On social, Phil Mickelson gave it a lukewarm, positive type endorsement point. Was it genuine from Phil?
Well, the only thing genuine about anything Phil does is how's it going to affect him in the long run, right? So was he lukewarm with the idea that maybe he can be a part of it someday? Because if he thinks he won't, then he would have slammed it. So that's just the way kind of Phil operates. But I feel like that inaugural season of TGL played itself out in a really fun way. And again, we've said this before on this podcast that when the matches are tight, it's pretty damn fun to watch. It's pretty suspenseful and it's pretty intense. When they're not tight, it's a sleeper. But I think it was great. I think they have a lot to build on going forward
100%.
Next year.
Look at what it meant to Billy, though, when he made the putt.
Yeah.
Look what it meant to these players, too, right? Yep. If they didn't care about it, they wouldn't react that way. Now, granted, Billy Horschel always has that extra umph in him playing golf, period. But still, it just goes to show you what it meant to them as well.
You're going to react to it because there's $20 million, I believe, on the line, right, Bobby?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was I saw the highlight, him jumping up and the whole thing. And, part of me says he just embracing the thrill of the victory, but then immediately think 20 million. So but I'm like Andy, I think they've got some stuff to build on for next year and they got some tweaking to do. But if that's the emotions from the players, I guess that's a good thing.
I think you can take it in a cool direction too with certain players that you bring in, right? And I know we've talked about them in the past, but this is not a slap to Kiz. But like player like Kiz, you can't be in there. I'm sorry, you can't. They go out.
So that's a great point, Christian. And like one of the most annoying things to me about TGL is, I forget his Marty, whatever, Marty tall hair commentator guy. It's like those guys are annoying. I think Kiz should be doing that. Like Kiz should be on the mic interacting with the players, not What's Marty's last name?
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his last name. I think with players that you got to think about that I think would draw more attention or more viewership. Like I think of Joel Damon, right? That would be a player, in my opinion, that draws a lot of attention. A lot of people like him. He's very laid back, very personable. Those are the kind of people that I think that they should kind of go out and grab. As well as, you can go out and get Scotty if you wanted to, but I don't know if Scotty would do this,
Here's my question. How do you think they decided that Lucas Glover and Matt Fitzpatrick wouldn't play?
Who's on the speed dial on Tiger and Rory's?
Do you think those guys did, or do you think the teams decided?
That I bet you it was a Tiger decision, if I had to guess.
Absolutely.
I would venture the other way.
I think it was, because why would they want Kisner then? I'll play devil's advocate. They're going to choose Kisner over a Matt Fitzpatrick or a Glover?
No. I'm saying that Glover and Fitzpatrick were the odd men out on their teams in the final. Like Glover is on
Oh,
Atlanta's
I'm sorry.
team. Yeah.
I thought
I'm
you
sorry.
did, I thought
I
you meant
misunderstood
in
you.
terms of just the
No.
composition of the overall teams.
No,
Okay.
each team had 4 players. How did
Right.
they figure out who sat the finals? Like that's tough.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
I
misunderstood you.
agree. I agree with that. Then I think
Then that's
somehow
a team decision.
Yeah, well, that's a team decision, or is it like we talked about last week, which is is there a captain on each of those teams? Then is each team eventually going to have like team ownership, and then you have a draft? I'm telling you, my mind can run wild with different things you could run with this thing.
Yeah. Like Lucas Glover's been playing great golf.
Yeah.
Great golf. And
Well,
conversely,
he's putting extremely well with the lab putter.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Conversely, on New York, I'm blanking on his name. Oh my God. The kid with the beard. Come on.
Cameron Young.
Cameron Young has been playing horrible golf.
Yeah. It's
So-
funny that you just mentioned that because I haven't heard his name. I was watching it yesterday and I'm like, wow, I haven't seen him in a while. He hasn't been, he hasn't been relevant on tour
Just
yet.
look at the bottom of the leaderboard. You'll find him.
Yep.
Like where Andy is. Where's Andy? Not you, Andy, other Andy.
Ogletree? Not Ogletree.
Where's
No.
Andy?
Our Andy is usually at the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, of course.
Firing off 66, 67. He's a stud.
64.
Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah,
I was never good at math, so.
you're a stick.
Yeah. Andy would kick my prettiest podcasters behind.
Bobby, you remember when Christian traveled down to Houston and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll take you on, big bro. I'll take you on."
He took me on and
Yeah.
ate a taco salad. That's how he took me on.
Right.
If I'm playing Andy at his home course, he's gonna have to give me 2 aside for me to have a chance.
Yeah, that's not the way we play golf.
Oh, it's the way.
No. There are no strokes.
He is a
given.
member of the Gentleman Putting Society now, Christian.
Yes.
True.
So
All right.
a little update from last week. Tonight at the Gentlemen's Putting Society, we had the father of the young lad who Rory took his phone. So we had George Gilbert played with us tonight, and it was funny because he was even saying tonight, he goes, I can't believe Luke would say that. He had the exact take we had last week. Being a great player as he is, it's like, why would he ever say that? And Coach Fields, like they were not happy with Luke Potter at all. They just went, University of Texas just went to number 1 in the rankings this week, by the way. Had a huge victory at the Valspar.
Wouldn't it be funny if Rory shows up at the NCAA championship?
And heckled Luke Potter?
Yeah. Babel's turn.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
I flashed it up there again. Question. What was Dave Pelz putting model? Still waiting for a response. Anybody that's out there listening, watching, please chime in. Google it if you wish. Andy wants the answer. Hey, so this is your time, Andy. Let me. I promised I was going to make it through a whole show without putting up the wrong caption. I got it up there right now. LIV Golf is making noise. They want to play in the Open Championship. Sergio, no pun good.
So that's what it's come down to, honestly, is the LIV guys have to go play in this newly formed international series to get points and kind of squeeze their way into the majors. And last week they were in Macau and Carlos Ortiz won. I think Jason Kokrak got one of the spots, and Sergio missed getting the 3rd spot by a shot. He played well in the tournament, but didn't get one of the 3 spots available.
Needed a lap putter.
Yeah. But, it's tough. It's tough that those guys, I believe he is using a lab putter, by the way.
Oh.
I think I saw a video of him using one, but I just think it's they're kind of dealing with their own bed that they made. And, maybe they were hoping that LIV would be this great thing and they'd get points and world ranking points and get in all the majors. It just hasn't happened that way. And now you can see a guy like Sergio and those guys, they still want to play in the majors. They still do.
Bobby, I mean, the RNA is holding, and I think we said this. If we go back 2 years when this thing really started breaking, these guys needed to, the USGA and the RNA and whatever, if they just held to their guns and said, look, we have no problem welcoming you into our competition. You have to earn your way. If you don't fall under one of these other criteria, why are we giving you special treatment? Be one of the 8,000 people that tee it up every year trying to get into the U.S. Open. RNA's holding firm.
Yeah, well, I was just going to make that point. Like any Open, you just qualify, you go for it. So I thought, USGA, that RNA was going to follow suit like that. But it is interesting. It's not taking that long in general for these players to definitely have all these second doubts. We were talking about that. And now, how do I get back to the tour? How do I get back to the majors, especially the majors? I mean, that's where that legacy, the history books, that's where they want to be. That's where it comes down to. You as a player, you got to, just mark yourself against the great players that played. They all want back. You could tell it was going to happen.
So I'll just add to this on the LIV report. They are doing something really cool. They're doing a LIV Creator Classic tournament where they're pairing up one of the LIV players with one of the content creators. So Phil's playing with Grant Horvat, and some of the other guys are matched up with some of the other LIV players, which I think is brilliant, right? I think it's going to be something that's super interesting, and people will tune in to watch that. I think it's probably due in part to Rick Shields being now connected to LIV and being their social kind of director, if you will. So I believe he put this together, but I think it's a really good move.
Christian, do you think it's a direct response to the PGA Tour doing their little content creator competition at Sawgrass, and even another one I think they've done too now? I mean, but is anybody watching? That's the real question.
I think it's a direct. Oh, it's the Creator Classic.
Does anybody watching LIV?
Oh no, but I agree with Andy. I think it's a complete result from Rick Shields. Personally, I think they had to do that in order to try to attempt to keep up with the PGA. They see how much success the PGA's brought, and I think this is the smartest decision LIV's ever done. Personally, I think it's going to bring a lot of viewerships to them because they're going out and getting the best YouTube golfers or content creators, I should say, today. So I'm curious to see how it pans out. But when you look at LIV and you look at, I'm touch on Sergio really quick. When you look at a player like that and all these guys that are missing the majors and so forth, everybody in life has a choice, and these guys chose to go to LIV. They knew this could happen to them, and yet they still chose to go. Right. So it's like now, ever since these individuals went to LIV, every single person outside of maybe a handful of them have been irrelevant. Since Sergio won, no one ever talked about him. He was irrelevant. Bubba Watson, irrelevant. DJ,
cares.
irrelevant. Exactly. So all these guys had a choice, and they chose to take the money. Whereas, look at a high caliber player who's actually playing very well, Joaquin Niemann. He was coming into his own on tour. Everybody chose to take the money, right? I remember watching Full Swing. You could see it in Brooks's eyes that he missed the tour. He couldn't say that he regretted going to LIV, but you look at somebody like that, right, who clearly wants to be back on the PGA Tour. I think that there should be a path eventually down the road if these guys chose to stay on LIV. But I feel like if LIV ever was stupid enough to do that, they would lose everybody.
Well, Webb Simpson was quoted earlier. I saw on social about the need for the negotiations to escalate and get this thing done. And it doesn't seem like anything's moving. And you got to wonder, is anything not moving because the threat has already been thwarted? And, you know, yes, these guys are having their "we want our cake and eat it too" moment, Andy, but they only got 12,000 people watching them sometimes on Fox News or Fox Sports, excuse me.
Well, it's funny. I think you just made a great point because it's all about leverage. And I think at a point maybe 18 months ago where they were a much larger threat to, you know, the health of the PGA Tour,
right?
Then they probably had the most leverage that they're ever going to have. I think as time goes by, their leverage slips away. And again, we shared the numbers last week on the Players Championship, getting 6 million viewers at the high point and, you know, an average of 3.5. It just, they're becoming less and less of a threat. And the window of them making a great deal is closing, I believe.
Well, were they ever a threat, though, to be honest? Even when they first
Yeah.
I absolutely believe they were. They're 100%.
I don't think they were a huge threat.
Yeah, I think they were absolutely a threat. And I think probably, if I will offer my humble opinion before we head to the 18th green, is I think that the tour looked at it as we had an aging star in Tiger, who was our needle. Rory was only one against many. And if it was, I'll say this, I haven't said it before. I don't think if it wasn't for Scotty Scheffler coming on and with the run he's on right now and the renewed interest that's gotten from some golf fans, yeah, I think they were they were threatened.
Check me. I might be wrong about this, but I don't think so. I think when LIV had its first event, Scotty Scheffler had not won a professional PGA tournament yet.
That might be accurate. I mean, let's look. If you remember, he was what 50th ranked or 40th ranked when when he was picked on the Ryder Cup up in Kohler. So
without a victory, right?
Without a victory, correct.
Last
he was
thing
a good,
really
good
quick
guy in the team room.
is that I think the biggest thing for LIV right now is their Australia.
100%.
That is like their major right there. That draws in the most viewership, the most attention every single year when they go out there. That would be the PGA's biggest threat, in my opinion.
I think if they come together, I'll say it again, I think there needs to be a world tour. If you want to have elite players at world tours, and they need to have more events down in Australia. And that's a conversation for another day, because right now, 18th green, Senor Baldessar.
Was that me?
Final thoughts, yes.
Okay. I thought there was some Spanish in there that I picked up on.
Hola. Hola.
Okay, so I got two buckets. One is a little swing instruction coaching as I'm getting back out of the club here and I'm watching my members. And tonight we had our first junior league practice, team practice. So I've got this thing where I'm always telling people, and I just thought I'd throw it out there tonight. Try this in your practice with your putting. Try your darndest to never let a putt short of the hole when you're practicing. A lot of people, they get on the course, they get tentative, and they're just leaving so many putts short, and then they run them really far by. But basically in practice, I'm just encouraging people, swing the putter, get the ball past the hole, get used to seeing the ball roll past the hole. As Dave Pelz would say, bringing up 12, 14 inches is the optimum roll past the hole to make the ball go in. But a lot of people get a little afraid of running it past. But hey, take a look at, watch the roll, watch the curvature as it goes by, and just try to paint that photo back into the hole. So just want to throw that out as it came to mind with Junior League tonight, getting back out there with the kids. It was a blast. So if you're listening to this, you can go to PGAJuniorLeague.com. PGA members across the country that are doing some really great things with this team golf. I was part of the team that put this thing together. And also Drive, Chip, and Putt is now registrations open for this year that we'll go back to Augusta next spring. And please, I went around this country. Nobody's seen probably more drive, chip, and putt than I have when I oversaw that thing. Not every kid could get to Augusta. do not sign your kid up thinking it's going to Augusta. Get the whole family there. I used to go to dry chip and putt events, and there'd be 5 kids in a family. 1 kid was in it. I'd say to the parents, why aren't the other kids doing it? They have no chance of going to Augusta. I'm like, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get developmental. We're trying to get the kids out there, have some fun. So parents or grandparents, sign your kids up for dry chip and putt. They get some cool gifts, have a lot of fun. Get them in PGA Junior League, team golf. It's really a wonderful vehicle to enjoy the game.
We got one of the best junior leagues in Jersey. Christian, final thought.
First off, great to be back with the boys. Always great getting together with everybody. I think we should maybe do our own little tour here between the 5 of us, potentially, maybe get together. I can finally get 2 strokes from Andy on each side, but story for another day. But I'm excited to see what's going to be happening out here in golf over the next few months. Best major, in my opinion, of the year is coming up just in a few short weeks. So I'm excited to see what unfolds there and, just make it a great day.
Mr. Hydorn.
So one last bit about Dave Pelz. And Dave Pelz is on the twisted wrong side of history on something that's happened over the last few years. And it's not even his fault. But Dave Pelz did a study a long time ago about whether to leave the pin in or out on chip. And his data came back and said that you should leave the pin in. But what people have failed to realize is that was for chipping. And now there's people who putt with the pin in all the time. You leave the pin in when the ball has a tendency to be going way too fast. That's when the pin can help you. On the putting green, the ball rarely has a tendency to be going way too fast. And therefore, people are putting with the pin in and getting screwed out of making a putt all the time. I see it all the time, and it's foolish. So that's not what Dave Pelz intended in putt with the pin out.
Well, that's simply because the boys in blue in Far Hills wants you to keep pace of play moving. Anyway, Bobby, I'm going to say something near and dear to your heart, and I'm going to give a shout out at the same time. I had the pleasure, you would have just saw it posted on our social, on our Facebook page. I had the pleasure on Tuesday of speaking at Brick Memorial High School in Brick, New Jersey to the Brick Golf class. And a shout out to teacher Ryan Graham, who puts that class on. 14 kids in the classroom, 7 boys, 7 girls, lacrosse players, people picking up the game for the first time. Some people, and I literally had a blast just sitting there trying to answer questions about the golf business, not only as a game, but the golf business as a career. And shout out to every one of you guys that are listening. I told you guys all to try to chime in. And the number one thing they said about TGL, I'll close on this. I said, why do you think they created something like TGL? And every single one of them said, for the younger fans like ourselves. They get it, and we hope you stick with the game. Boys, up. Yes, Andy?
Answer to our trivia question.
Yes.
Dave Pelz's putting model was called Perfy.
Can't be better than that.
You only have one opportunity to sell your golf property. Shouldn't you partner with an expert that offers you 30-plus years of golf industry experience, combined with the reach of a global leader in real estate? Colliers International Golf Brokerage and Advisory Services understands your unique business needs. Whether it is brokerage, management, and consulting, be reassured that the market leader in the business of golf is providing you the real answers and practical solutions you deserve. Contact Golf Talk Live co-host and Colliers Golf Advisory Services member Alan Depew today at 717-554-8519. That's 717-554-8519.